listening to the Pro Bono Happy Hour. I'm Rena Glazer. Welcome back. Quick reminder that the PBI annual dinner is rapidly approaching. The event will be in New York City on Thursday night, September 28th at the amazing Gotham Hall. More information can be found on the web at probonoinst.org, or if you prefer the phone, give Kelly Simon a call at 202-729-6691. We're grateful to all of our generous sponsors and supporters. Today's guest is Valentine Brown from Duane Morris. Valentine is based in Philadelphia, and we discussed her career and role at the firm, what she's learned and accomplished since assuming leadership of the firm's pro bono program, inspiring pro bono efforts on behalf of immigrants, veterans, and more. We hope you enjoy the conversation. Valentine, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It seems like just yesterday that Tammy Taylor and I were meeting with you and your colleagues at your offices in Philadelphia on a hot summer afternoon, but it's actually been quite a while, so I'm really excited to catch up with you. Let's jump right in. Could you tell us a little bit about your background? In other words, tell us about you.
Sure. I was born and raised outside of Washington, D.C., in the suburbs in Maryland. And I went to University of Delaware for undergrad. I was a language major there. And then I went to University of Baltimore for law school. And most recently, I've been working on my golf game, which has been a lot of fun. And, working on the pro bono program at Duane Morris, which takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, that's a lot to keep you busy. And as we're sitting here talking to you from Washington, D.C., we love to talk to someone who grew up nearby. So before we get too far down the road, I've got to ask you the obvious question, and that is, could you tell us a little bit about your name? Because I'm sure everyone is super curious.
Sure. I am the fourth generation first daughter named Valentine in my family. So the story goes that my great-grandmother, who was born in Warsaw, Poland, was born on Valentine's Day. And she emigrated to the United States in around 1908, 1907, around there. And so my grandmother was named Valentine, my mom was named Valentine, and then me. So I've always told the same story that, my great-grandmother was born on Valentine's Day, and of course the family was Catholic, and you named your child after their saint's day. So a few years ago, I was going through some of the family papers, and I found my great-grandmother's naturalization document. And it turns out that she's actually born in August.
Whoops! Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't done my genealogy research yet, but I don't actually know. I'm thinking maybe there's another generation back that was named Valentine, but I have to do my research to find that out.
That is awesome. It also may mean that you can make up whatever origin story you want. So.
Exactly.
Oh, that is great. That is so great. Well, thank you for sharing. Sure. Valentine, why did you decide to become a lawyer?
I think it was because I really wanted to, my family was always sort of a helping family. My dad was a doctor, and my mom was the consummate, volunteer in our church, in our schools, in the community, voter registration, all those kind of things. And so I think I wanted to do something that would really, I knew how to help people, give them rides, register them to vote. But I wanted to do something that could really actually help people on a broader sort of bigger scale and on a longer term basis.
How did you get to Duane Morris?
It's quite a long story. I've been here since 2009. And I'm an immigration attorney by trade, so I've been practicing immigration law for 22 years. So I was I've worked in boutique immigration firms in Philadelphia. I had my own practice, solo practice with paralegals and an associate in New Jersey for 9 years. And after, basically, it was a wonderful it was a wonderful practice and everything was going well with it, but it was a lot of pressure to keep it up with all of the, employees and all that. So I started looking for opportunities to join with another firm, and the opportunity with Duane Morris presented itself. So I've been here as an immigration partner in the employment law group since April of 2009.
So it sounds like it's stuck. It's a good match.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the firm generally, practice areas, location, size, just for people who might not be too familiar with Duane Morris?
Sure. It's a Philadelphia-based firm. It was started in the early 1900s. It was started as a Quaker firm. So we do everything by consensus, even today. And we have about 300 attorneys in Philadelphia, and then we have 19 other offices in the U.S., all major metropolitan areas. And then we also have been on an international expansion in the past few years, and primarily focused on Asia. So we've got London, our headquarters Asia office is Singapore, but we've got Malaysia, Taipei, 2 offices in Vietnam, Shanghai, and we also have an office in Oman. So it's quite an interesting place, and lots of opportunities to do really different kinds of pro bono.
So speaking of pro bono, how did you come by your pro bono leadership position at the firm?
When I joined the firm in 2009, I was really excited to be able to keep doing pro bono. Being an immigration practitioner, I've always done a ton of pro bono because it's such a great need, and it's not hard to fit it into your practice. So I had always done pro bono. When I came here, there was no immigration partner in the Philadelphia office, which is where the bulk of our attorneys are. So with me here, they were able to do a lot more immigration-related pro bono because I could help, train and supervise cases. So the first thing that we did was start a VAWA practice group, probably in 2010, and then that just sort of grew from there. And I've always done a lot of naturalization pro bono cases as well. So we were doing tons of immigration. So that was going on, and when the pro bono counsel resigned her position, it was probably October 2014. She let everybody know she was leaving by the end of the year. I was like, man, I would be great for that job. So turns out there were 3 internal candidates for the position, and it was kind of nerve-wracking. I did meet with the chairman, and he wanted to hear what my proposals were to, improve the program, what would be my focus, and then we had to work out, my partnership issues and all of that. So, but it was quite a negotiation, and I started in the position in January of 2015, and we rearranged the whole pro bono program. So, I am pro bono partner. And then we have Catherine Christian McGee, who's the associate pro bono counsel, who had previously been the pro bono coordinator prior. And then since we've been in the roles, we've also added a pro bono administrator. She joined us in probably June of 2015, who's also a licensed social worker. So we have a really great team going now and made a lot of progress.
That is awesome, and I'll do a coming attraction because we're going to look forward to talking with Kat McGee in the near future about her experience, and we'll get her perspective and shine even more of a spotlight on the great work that you're doing. So now that you have your team in place, how are the responsibilities divvied up among you and the rest of your team? Sort of who does what? What are the roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's definitely been something that's evolving as we've all honed our skills and learned, more about what the needs are and what are the best practices for the firm. In general, I would say that I love kind of marketing and developing campaigns and ideas and sort of the big picture kind of, thought processes about how to get more people involved, what additional projects we can work on, and all of those kind of things. So in that sense, I am sort of doing overall direction of the program, as well as a lot of communicating to practice group leadership, firm leadership, and and then, of course, responsibility for all of the fires that need to be put out. And, whenever we get kind of sensitive type of pro bono opportunities or large pro bono opportunities, making determinations on whether those are the kind of cases we can take on or not. I'm continuing in my immigration practice as well. So, splitting my time, both representing billable clients and doing the pro bono program.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. So how do you manage? How do you manage a busy billable practice and sort of oversight of the pro bono program?
It's lots of delegation to lots of really great people.
Yeah.
So the pro bono team is awesome. And then I have an immigration team as well that I am able to delegate to and supervise. So it works out really well. And that's been a learning curve too. Especially during the first year in the pro bono job, we had so much we wanted to do, and there was a lot of room for growth. So we really were working hard on a lot of projects. We've established, once you get through 1 year in a new job, you see all the cycles and the various, reporting cycles, all of that. Pro bono week, we have 2 firm retreats. So there's a lot of events. And once you figure out how to manage and time that all out, we also do an annual report. So the timing on that, but we have 2 years under our belt now. So it's much easier to manage and know what's coming up next.
Yeah, I think those are some dynamite takeaways. One, get through the cycle. I mean, you really learn a lot once you're actually in the position and see what's going on. And don't be nervous about making changes. You got to figure it out as you see people's strengths, as you see people's interests. And I would say my other dynamite takeaway from that is delegation, right? I mean, people can't do serious, really busy jobs well without delegating and having a team that they can trust and who will support them. I mean, we're not islands. We can't do it all ourselves. And that's a difficult lesson for many people to learn. But that's dynamite advice. So I hope people will listen and take heed.
Yes, it's funny. Kat McGee and our social worker, Casey Obenchain, just last week, they had mentioned to me that I had taught them so much about delegating because now they're delegating. So, and along those same lines, being in a large firm, we have amazing resources. We have marketing, we have IT, we have reports, we have practice support. It's amazing the resources that are here, even the copy shop, So delegating and using all of those tools to their fullest advantage, even the library research. There's so many ways to delegate here and delegating to people that are much more equipped and quick at doing the things that you're trying to do.
Yeah. And what have you found the response to be when you've asked? I mean, I suspect that, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but looking at the amazing pro bono publications that you produce, I suspect that the people who have helped you with that have been delighted to help you. I mean, these are projects that people like to work on. They just need to be asked.
Yeah, that's definitely been our experience, especially with marketing for sure.
What do you enjoy the most about your work leading the firm's pro bono program?
I think the thing I like the most is working with the clients, honestly. I really have always enjoyed getting to know people who are different than me and being able to help people through a really difficult time in their life, which usually if pro bono clients for sure, you're touching them at a moment that's really high stress, any number of things could be going on for them. So being able to be there and really, be a steady, firm support for them has been really rewarding for me.
That's wonderful. I'd like to pivot and build on that point. In part of our research, I found this testimonial from one of the firm's pro bono immigration clients. They wrote, "I am deeply thankful to Duane Morris for the firm's selfless representation of me in my hour of need. My attorneys became and still are my best friends. They are compassionate human beings who understand perfectly the intricacies of the law and are aware of the stress that legal proceedings can have on an individual." So the firm and Valentine, you as an immigration law expert, have been involved in a lot of immigration-related pro bono efforts. Why were you attracted to immigration law to begin with, on the commercial side and in the pro bono side? And tell us more about the types of pro bono matters you've been working on.
I think for me, being a language major, I was always interested in international relations, international law, and also once I went to law school, I really loved constitutional law as well and employment law. So immigration really pulls all of those areas in together. And plus, having the opportunity to work with people with so many diverse backgrounds is really, really rewarding. The firm's immigration practice, or pro bono immigration practice, runs the gamut. We've been doing kind cases. We've been doing lots of asylum work, especially in the last couple of years. The quote you read is from an asylee who his case was worked on by actually a corporate partner with help from our really senior, wonderful immigration partner in the D.C. office. And he was a wonderful client, and he really did become close friends with the corporate partner who was working on his case throughout, because immigration cases take years to complete, so you really do have a chance to get to know your clients well. He was just a joy to work with, and the entire office really adopted him. So in addition, we're doing lots of VAWA work, Uvisas. Right now we're running a 360 acts of citizenship campaign. So the idea there is to do, before the end of the year, 360 either individual naturalization cases or attend clinics or attend naturalization screenings. So we put that out probably beginning of May, I think, and we already have over 100 different specific cases taken or clinics attended for naturalization. In our New York office, we're working with the Mexican consulate in New York and on a referral kind of program with them. So we've been receiving quite a few Uvisa and VAWA referrals from the consulate there. We have a wonderful senior associate in our New York office who's taken that up as her project and is liaising with the Mexican consulate and also supervising, getting volunteers and then helping with the cases out of the New York office. So it's wonderful. That's another example of delegation, right, is to empower the senior associates to take on leadership roles. And then in Philadelphia, our Casey, our social worker, runs a clinic here where every week she goes to one of the Latino social service nonprofits and does VAWA intake every week. And she'll take an attorney or two with her from the Philadelphia office, and will usually bring back a couple of Uvisa or VAWA cases from that clinic as well. So there's such a huge need.
Yeah, huge need, but you've set some ambitious goals, so that's exciting. Aim high, and you could do amazing things. Before we leave this topic, for people who aren't familiar with the terms, could you just briefly explain, you've thrown out some terms, VAWA and Uvisa, just kind of briefly to give people some context for what those are?
Absolutely. VAWA stands for Violence Against Women Act, and that was legislation passed, I think, in the mid-'90s, where they under immigration law, people who have been in domestic violence situations and are relative of a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident can get their immigration status straightened out even without the direct sponsorship of the spouse or parent. So somebody who's been abused mentally or physically, an adult or a child, by a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident can still get their green card, even though the relationship is, broken or ended. And the reason that they did that is because there's so much control issues in the domestic, in a domestic violence situation. Immigration is often used as a mechanism to control the foreign national. The abuser will threaten them with deportation or reporting them to immigration if they report the abuse. So this breaks that cycle and allows the person who's being abused to get out of the situation and get legal status. The U visa is for somebody who is a victim of crime, and it applies often in the domestic violence context when the abuser is not a legal permanent resident or a U.S. citizen. Oftentimes the abuser might also be undocumented, or there was no legal relationship, they were never married. So in that, a U visa for domestic violence would apply in that situation. But U visa also, there's a list of crimes that will qualify somebody for a U visa. And so it could be, you could be mugged, robbed on the street by a stranger, and you could qualify for a U visa if you assist the police in the investigation. And the hardest part of the U visa is you must get a certification from the police who investigated the crime to confirm that you were helpful to the investigation. But the amazing thing about that benefit is if you do get approved for your U visa, it does put you on a path to a green card and eventually citizenship. So it's a very extraordinary immigration benefit.
Thank you. Thank you for that education. I think that's really helpful for people. I was struck in doing research for today and came across the recent announcement of new partners at the firm, and just about every attorney bio highlighted their pro bono work. That was an amazing accomplishment. And since you and your team have assumed leadership of the pro bono program, what do you consider your biggest successes or achievements?
Last year, we had 100% participation by associates in the firm. That was the first time that's ever been done. We have doubled the hours in 2 years. So when in 2014, we did about 16,000 hours, a little over 16,000. And then in 2016, we did over 32,000 hours. And this year we have a goal to do almost 36,000. So we're doing about 3,000 hours a month of pro bono. And this year our goal is to have 100% participation by partners and associates. So we are working hard on that goal. But definitely getting the numbers up was a huge accomplishment. When our first quarter in the job, we did a presentation to the executive committee, and we had laid out a strategic plan, and we put different options, 3, 4, or 5 years. And it was all based on numbers and reporting and how to get participation up. So the executive committee didn't, they wanted us to succeed in our goals, so we picked the 5-year plan for the numbers, and we ended up meeting the 5-year plan in 2 years. So that's been a really wonderful testament to all the hard work, as well as really getting leadership engaged and supportive.
Yeah, we were so excited to have the firm sign on to our Law Firm Pro Bono Challenge. So that's been another win that we're very excited about.
We made our 3% goal last year.
Yeah, it's really super exciting. We talked a little bit about, focusing on partner participation and upping that. Where's room for improvement? What do you see as your greatest challenges, and what have you identified as sort of areas for improvement?
Definitely partner participation is one of our biggest areas for improvement. and as well as getting partners, off of just doing 1 hour, right?
Yep.
Getting them up to 20 hours. So that's it. Before we took over leadership of the program, we had a great pro bono program, but it was kind of status quo, and there was no real push or leadership to increase participation rates. So now we are reporting, presenting, and talking to people at all levels of the firm, from the executive committee, practice group heads, and office heads as well, and really bringing the benefits of pro bono and the need for pro bono to top of mind, at all levels of the firm on a regular basis. So continuing with that communication is really key to getting the partners to participate. Now we're to the point where I think we already have about 75% participation this year, which is, for the halfway through the year, it's a really good, it's a good place to be. So we're really working on the partners who have really never done pro bono, and getting to them and finding something that's interesting to them, and just helping them understand that they can fit a pro bono case onto their plate, just like they fit another billable case.
You mentioned earlier that, the reason you were attracted to the law was to help people. You came from a family of helpers, and there were a lot of volunteer opportunities, but you saw the law as a way to help. What else do you think sparked your passion for pro bono and access to justice?
I've always had a soft spot for the underdog. I don't know why, but it's just always, been with me. When I was in law school, I was involved with a nonprofit group out of the University of Baltimore that worked with the homeless population in Baltimore City. So, I would go every week. I would go pick up the extra bread from the bread factory in Baltimore and go drop it off to a couple of, food pantries and, soup kitchen type of organizations in the city. We used to run a giant volleyball tournament that was also it was kind of like what they do now for veterans with the stand down, but this was just for homeless people, and we had clothes, supplies, everything sorted, cleaned, and they could come and just pick up what they wanted. So I don't know, it's just always been there. I remember one story that always sticks with me from my childhood. I lived in a neighborhood of doctors and, in Potomac, Maryland. And across the street, my neighbor had a housekeeper. I'm pretty sure she was from El Salvador, and this was in the 80s. And she lived in the basement during the week, taking care of this family, and then would go home on the weekends to her apartment, in Prince George's County, where she had her husband. And my mom would drive this woman, rather than let her take the bus, which was not easy from where we lived. My mom would actually take this woman home every Friday night and drive her all the way to her house so that she didn't have to take the bus. So that story, just the compassion in that story always, and most of the time I was in the car, on this ride with my mom. So I just remember that story. It was just such a different way to look at people than was the normal way at that time.
And it's a great example, as you said, of compassion and how even the smallest acts of human kindness can just make a huge difference. And yeah. I feel that way about pro bono. A lot of people think even, the smallest services that we provide, but they can provide a disproportionate effect on people's lives. It's a tremendous gift that we're given. And that's a great story about it. Could you share, we talked a little bit about one of the asylum seekers and some of the other clients you represented, but could you tell some other examples of pro bono matters that have been particularly meaningful to you, either because you worked on them or you've seen the firm work on them, and for whatever reason they really speak to you?
Sure. We're doing a ton of veterans work. So we've got veterans service-connected disability appeals, and then appeals within the agency, and then also we're working with the Veterans Consortium in doing appeals before the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. So I just took my second one of those, and the government agreed to settle on the case conference phone call. So that was just last week, which was a miracle because that's the first time that's ever happened here. And all of it's called a Rule 33 conference. And so the government said they would remand immediately. And our veteran is an 86-year-old World War II and Korea vet who lives in Puerto Rico. And so he's trying to get service-connected disability for problems with his eyesight. And so anyway, that's been a really fun case. But all of our veterans work is really interesting. We're doing medical legal partnerships. One of our senior associates in the Washington, D.C. office has been working closely, again, with the Veterans Consortium, and they've developed regular medical legal clinic, at a couple of the veteran hospitals in the Washington, D.C. area. We've been working with Urban Justice in New York to do discharge upgrades. Those are really hard cases, but so worthwhile. Especially, there's a lot of vets who had either a medical discharge or other than honorable discharge when really the issue was post-traumatic stress disorder. So depending on, the level of the discharge is the level of benefits that they get. So even with the other than honorable discharge, they cannot get the, the GI Bill education benefits. So helping some of these veterans get their discharge upgraded, we've been doing a lot of those cases as well. We have a program we started in 2015, which is called Veterans Week of Service. And that is, it's around around Veterans Day, November, depending on the week, but, 5 to 10 days of really concerted veterans-related pro bono activities. So we'll have definitely training provided, and then we try to have at least one sort of clinic activity or something for each office, and try to get everybody to at least do 1 hour of pro bono during that time frame that's veterans related. We did a really interesting project last year with an organization called Bunker Labs, which is sort of an incubator for veteran-owned startups. And they have, I think they were founded in Chicago, but they've got chapters in a lot of cities now. So we worked with the one in New York and did basically a small business clinic for the veteran-owned small businesses up they're housed actually in NYU in New York. So we went up there with a bunch of our intellectual property, corporate, litigation partners from the New York office and did a clinic for them last year during Veterans Week. So we're doing all kinds of veterans work. Another big area for us this year in our Pennsylvania offices here in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh has been the juvenile lifer without parole issue. So the issue has been in Pennsylvania that we have about 300 men, women, just a couple women, mostly all men serving life without parole who were convicted as juveniles. And because of the line of Supreme Court cases, finally, it's been held that that this is a cruel and unusual punishment, and you can't it's not legal any longer. So they've been a huge push in Pennsylvania to get all of these people resentenced. And of course, the Defenders Association was taking the bulk of the work, but had conflicts when it was, joint defendants in a lot of cases. So we took 4 cases, on the first instance of resentencing, and then we have one right now that's the resentence was denied, and so we have it on appeal out in Pittsburgh. The case that I was on the team, I didn't do a lot of the work, but our person was convicted of course, he was capital crime. He committed murder when he was 17 and had been in jail for 35 years out in western Pennsylvania. And I went to the resentencing hearing, which happened here in Philadelphia. And I have to say, I was there at counsel table listening to our attorneys present. The courtroom was filled with about 30 of his family members, all from Philadelphia, extended family, cousins, all kinds of people, all ages. And when our client read his statement of remorse, that of course the associate on the case had been to the prison numerous times to help him work on it, I'm not kidding you, but the court reporter was crying in the courtroom. And it was just such a healing moment for everybody in the room. I think even the judge was so moved by, just the opportunity to finally put justice, to the right in this particular case. They had the prosecutor's office. They had contacted the victim's family. They did not come to the hearing, but they were in agreement with allowing the resentencing to go through. So he was resentenced to 35 to 40 years and was immediately eligible for parole. This all happened in the last 6 months. So I think his hearing was in November 2016, and then he went up for parole in February and was actually denied parole. We were all completely devastated. And then within a few weeks, we don't exactly know what happened, but we think that there was so many of the other cases were getting approved for parole that they didn't want that particular prison where our inmate was staying to be the only one that didn't get it. So they looked at the case again, and he was all of a sudden his parole was granted, and nobody knew how it happened. So he's been out now for a few months, and we've had him to the office. We've had lunch with him, and he's doing great. But that's been an amazing story. Our other 3 cases are still going. They haven't made it to the resentencing stage yet for the actual hearing.
We've had a number of guests on the podcast talk about the sort of issue of juvenile lifers and what this work has meant to them. What has this meant to you and the other people at the firm that have worked on these cases? What do you think their feelings are of working on these types of matters?
I think at first it's mostly the trial department, right, the litigators that get involved. And I think, they go into it thinking about the law and the Supreme Court line of cases and, and then there's the logistics. Oh my God, I have to go to the prison. How am I going to get there? But I think once you actually sit down with the clients and hear their stories, it really goes to all the heart of all the issues, mass incarceration, prison reform, all the social issues of the day really come out so strongly in these cases. And so I think they've all been personally moved by the work, and I think it just encourages all of us who want to do more and to not be afraid of doing criminal defense type of work, or to look more deeply at those types of cases and what is the societal purpose and benefit of doing them.
What's on the horizon for the Pro Bono program? Could you tell us about something new that you have in the works?
one of the things we were really trying to do is use the pro bono program as a way to engage employees and, of course, attorneys in the firm, just more in firm life and firm culture. So we are, as part of our 360 Acts of Citizenship campaign, we are going to do a mini, like a selfie video sort of competition. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that came to light as we rolled out the program was how many people we have in the firm who are naturalized citizens and, partners and employees alike. And everybody started telling us their naturalization stories, which we had no idea they were even naturalized. So we wanted to have a chance to share that with all of the firm. And so we're going to be giving everybody a chance to sort of do a 1-minute video on, what does citizenship mean to me? And then we'll post the videos up on our intranet and see if we can get some sort of competition going as to, what's everybody's favorite video. So that we're really looking forward to that as well.
What a great idea, yeah.
Yeah. We're gearing up for our Veterans Week of Service this year, even more ambitious, trying to make sure we have a really strong project going in each office and trying to get attorneys to step up and run those projects, because clearly we can't run them all in 1 week.
Yep. That's amazing. Well, we'll stay tuned and we'll look forward to updates. The selfie project sounds amazing. It's hard to believe summer associates are winding down, but it's already recruiting season. On-campus interviews are beginning. Callbacks will be happening soon, if they haven't already, from various law schools around the country. What advice do you generally have for law students and lawyers who are just starting their careers?
I think pro bono is a wonderful way to have a little bit of control over your caseload and your own professional development. We give every summer associate a pro bono matter that's assigned to them, but then they can also pick up additional ones out of, the open assignment pool. So we try to get them on board, immediately. And a lot of them report that it's one of their favorite assignments of the summer, because they're usually dealing with a real person. They get client contact, even if it's on the phone, having a chance to talk to somebody who really needs help in that moment and that they're able to help them. It's really gratifying and fulfilling. And, the other thing too for young associates, it's such a whirlwind when they get into a big firm that having a couple of matters that they are that they are running themselves, that they are the lead person on and are directing the representation, of course, with training and help. But it's just a very it's a great way to have a mental break from the grueling litigation or type of corporate matters that they normally get assigned to, document review, that kind of thing. So it's a really good way to keep your sanity and to keep it in front of mind, why you did go to law school.
Valentine, let's end with this. Who's your pro bono role model and why?
Yeah, this is a hard question for me, but I think, honestly, Kat McGee has been a wonderful role model for me. She has been in pro bono related roles her entire legal career, and she really is somebody who believes so strongly in the mission and also has a great network and knows, all the players in a lot of different cities and a lot of different, of course, local and national organizations. So anytime there's a connection to be made or an introduction to be made, she's really the perfect person for that. And also, too, she has made her focus has sort of been on the family law side of things. And, she's been expanding that to human trafficking and some other areas. So just watching her develop her skills in different areas has given me, courage to go out of my comfort zone and, do veterans work or, be on the JWAP case. So it's really, she's been a great role model for me since I've been here.
Well, I'm sure Kat will be very flattered to hear that, and I think it will be really exciting for us to have an opportunity to speak to her, just as it's been super exciting for us to speak with you. So thank you so much for making the time to talk with us today. It's been a pleasure and incredibly inspiring.
Thank you so much.
An enthusiastic thank you to Valentine for joining us today. New and archived episodes of the podcast can be found on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. If you're listening on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, please take a moment to leave a rating and a review. Leave some stars, write some comments. It's quick and easy to do. We'd appreciate the feedback, and it would help make it easier for other listeners to find the show. Hey listeners, we'd love to hear from you directly. Send your comments, feedback, and suggestions to pro bono at probonoinst.org. We'll be back with a new episode next week. For all of us here at PBI, thanks for listening.